I very much enjoyed RPing with him. Yeah. And sorry this entire chat has turned into like GTRP nostalgia kind of stuff. My bad. That's good stuff. I had a lot of fun with it. The Sweet Key says, I still have that picture of Callista, Clay, Sadie, and Marcus hanging out on the beach. Yeah, I still have screenshots from a lot of that too. And for the record, Callista is that Sweet Key, and then Sadie, who is the person Marcus was around, uh, with whatever you want to say for the words, that's Moonwitch. I know Clay has hopped into our chat in a while. I don't remember what his handle on Twitch was though. I don't believe he streams though. I could be wrong. This movie was like, hey, we went from horror movies to science, then games, quite a tangent. Yep. Oh, do I have the radio on? The draw the zombies in. Alright. The good news is every time we're doing these passes, we're just seeing less and less and less zombies, so we are getting more and more of this town knocked down. Ah, gotcha. Yeah, so Clay isn't on anymore. I figured, like, that was one of the things I felt was going to be weird. That's actually one of the things that, so for the record, like, almost everyone when it comes to, like, you do a lot of your RP interactions in character on the server, but there is a lot of interaction that happens off the server where it's like, hey, is it okay if my character set, like, does this with your character? Like, making sure you're not putting someone in an uncomfortable position. Like, don't hit on someone else's character unless, like, you first say, hey, like, is it cool that, my character hits on yours? Like, be respectful of people. You don't want to make it uncomfortable because that's no fun for anyone. Ardeem Prime says, I have a lot to say about science, but I've never even watched GTA RP. Yeah, and that's like the same thing. Like, before I got on that server, I had no interest in GTRP at all. And then just saw the one, I was like, oh, hey. But RP can be fun. I will warn you, a lot of the servers do get intense, though. That, like, you'll be surprised how much stuff happens around your character can emotionally impact you as a person. Like, I am not a particularly emotional individual, but then when you have, like, your character's in-character, like, best friend quote-unquote dies in the server because the person left the server, and that's the way they decide to go, is they do what we refer to as perma-ing, which is, they get shot or in a car accident or whatever, and they go to the hospital and they say, hey, my character doesn't survive this experience. And then you hold a funeral for him. It's like, okay. And that's again why I don't do GTRP on the channel anymore, is because you can imagine hosting funerals is probably not the greatest for chill vibes. And you kind of get yourself in the headspace of your character too, which is interesting. It's like it's an acting like improv kind of thing, but it gets pretty heavy. Our Dean Prime says, I used to play World of Darkness game and still Pathfinder and D&D. I know role-playing can pull the feels. Oh yeah. Like, it can be real surprising that, like, it can put you in a really good mood or really in a funk mood in a day, depending on how things go. I also appreciate GTRP specifically, because anyone who's played GTA 5 knows there be jank. There is stuff in GTA 5 that just does not work correctly sometimes. And so you can imagine you're pretending to actually be this person. You're not supposed to, like you're supposed to stay in character, that kind of thing. That's what hard RP is as opposed to soft RP, is you stay in character regardless. And then, like, the server is just jacking up and you're teleporting around and cars are, like, wigging out and just launching into the sky. And you as your character are just like, yep, I gotta behave how this person would behave, seeing whatever this nightmare fuel is. which a lot of people explained as like paranormal activity, like ghosts and demons and all that, which my character was kind of a denier of those things. Yeah. It was fun. And for the record, I've told what my character is before. The character I played in the server was, we had a news space, like a news, agency, whatever you want to say, on the server. So we'd have reporters actually go when events happen on the server to interview people, to get pictures, do all these kind of stuff, get all the information. And then we would actually have, in the game, you could access on your character's phone in the game, a website that would have the news articles in. And so it's kind of like really, really neat, because normally the problem is to figure out stuff happened while you weren't online, you weren't allowed to use that information because that's called meta. That's the information your character would not have, and therefore does not have, and you are not allowed to play using that information. You have to learn it in character. But by having like this phone app you could pull up and read whatever's happening in the city, like you could look at this news and go, oh hey, there was a bank robbery, or whatever the news article was. And so your character could get knowledge about what was happening in the city in character in a meaningful way. Because the problem was before that, if you wanted to learn about what was happening in the city, you had to constantly go like to person, be like, hey, what happened this past week? Oh, you know, I was asleep, so, you know, I don't know. Oh, did anything interesting happen? You had to talk to like 30, 40 people just to even figure out, it's like, was there any major events right there? It has, I don't think it's shut down, but no, it's, a lot of people from the scene have moved on to other things, that kind of stuff. Like to be fair, the big mover and shaker and getting stuff done in the scene was, in character, her name was Mary. And she kind of ran things, and she eventually left the scene. And so she was really the main organizer of stuff. I know A Short Sigh has helped a lot with it, and there's been a few others, but I don't think it's had, like, nearly as much. And I believe the player behind April is actually RPing on another server now. Like, I don't know if her character, like, I think there was plans for April to leave the server, as it were, but I don't know if those already have happened or anything like that. Hey, Colo, how's it going? But to be fair, like, I felt like as the servers evolved, it's become a lot more leaning towards the police and criminal things, less on the civilian thing, which kind of has kept me off the server too. To be fair, I don't have the time. I probably wouldn't play more. Which it's fine. I don't think that's like a bad choice for the people running the server. I think it is something that draws in eyeballs and interest and everything else, and ultimately it does boil down to they have to have people hopping on the server on a regular cadence to do stuff and all that, to keep interest in the server, to keep the server funded and all that, so I don't blame them. Is the server still nearly as bad with the whole serial killer RP? Because I remember that was a thing that just all the time you had these like over-the-top serial killers who were posting on Twitter constantly, and it made it very hard to do anything but be absorbed in the serial killer RP. That's good. This week he's saying definitely the PDM, so it's the police crim stuff is going much more. Keeps people busy at the hospital, but when characters go off duty, there's like really nothing to do. People, yeah, because I remember like for me when things started to really wind down, was there's a bunch of DJs on the server. So like when things were slow, they would like host a party, you'd have a DJ, they'd be playing music, and it kind of gave you like a place to go. And you know, it's more meeting other people to RP with, to do something, because otherwise it was you'd wander around, you'd like fish, or you'd drive, and that. Gotcha. That was my whole thing, was especially yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, there was okay, so Cole said I went to class at 8 a.m. And there was a sheet of paper saying there was F, you come back at 9. Yeah. Luckily that didn't happen too much when I was in college. But yeah, that was the thing for if you go to RP on GTRP, like it is GTA ultimately at the end of it. So you are going to have people who are going to rob you, they're going to mug you, your character's going to get hurt sometimes, they're going to be faced with very stressful things. That's, if you ever RP, just accept that is going to be part of the equation. But on the server we had for a little while, there was some very high-profile serial killers that, like, it was stuff that wouldn't last but like 2 seconds in real life, where a person would, kill someone on the server, then take a picture of the body, and then, be like, oh, I hope you find them in time. And that was just because, again, in RP, only you, the player, get to decide when your character dies. So the idea is, you would just have your character survive the attack. That you got, like, you got stabbed or whatever, but you pulled through. But it got to the point with, like, you couldn't connect with other players because this overarching story was happening at all times. And that was difficult. But I'm glad to hear it's down low, because there's been serial killers on that RP server that, like, we had one of the people who worked at the scene we found out way later was a serial killer. Or what? Yeah, they worked at the scene, the serial killer, for a long time. And it was well done. Like, you never knew. I was like, oh, this is kind of a weird person, but whatever. They seemed plenty harmless. And it was like a real serial killer where it's not like they're running around posting pictures, they would just do what they do. And people would be like, alright, these people are mysteriously disappearing. I appreciate that, but it's the over-the-top ones I got tired of. Because, like, the other ones you can pretend your character's totally ignorant of. And be like, oh, that's weird, and just move on. It's like, maybe they moved, whatever. But the over-the-top ones, there's just no escape. Those kind of forced on you to RP dealing with that, like, people dying all around your city. I did see that the, if I'm not mistaken, isn't the new Deep Fried Brain server for Project Zomboid, isn't that an RP server? For people who know the difference between hard and soft RP, you wouldn't happen to know, is it hard or soft RP? I'm just curious, I'm actually not going to play on it. I don't think I want to RP Project Zomboid. Hard RP means, like, no matter what's happening in game, you're supposed to stay in character, treat it like it's real, value your life kind of stuff. Not that they couldn't fight zombies, but they'd have to be like, look, to survive, I'm going to need to fight zombies. Not, hey, look, we can just avoid the zombies kind of thing. Your character would have to have a valid reason why they're going out of their way to fight the zombies to survive. Yep, for RP and PZ. I want to say it was, the Jackson, a few of them, if I'm not mistaken, were, staying in RP. Like I said, I just don't know if it's hard or soft RP. Hard RP means you stay in character at all times. You react according to how your character should. Soft RP means you kind of stay in character, but, like, you don't necessarily have to act the way your character naturally would in a moment. You can kind of do that. I nearly slept in. Would have been nice to sleep because of... Yeah. Well, and especially you're saying that you went to take your class and they're like, come back in an hour. Like, that's what's like, yeah, I would have loved to have just slept that extra hour. Thanks. Yeah, no, it's like Danchek. Absolutely, it's you would come up with so many reasons to fight. Like, I could just sit there and just randomly be like, hey, you know, Ellen Ennis is from Rosewood. And, you know, her house is down in this block. And, you know, she's trying to find what happened to her friend or whatever. And that would be a reason for my character to be like, you know, I am comfortable putting myself in this risk because I have to know what happened to my friend. Like, she could be okay. Like, I need that closure. And so in hard RP, that would be a reasonable enough excuse for her to, you know, fight through the zombie horde or sneak through it or whatever to find that information. Because in character, that's worth dying for. I also think I'd, like, if I were to ever RP again, I think I would want to do something more like a Project Zomboid RP versus, like, GTRP, because GTRP, you know, it's supposed to be certain basis on reality where, like, there are laws, you're expected to follow them. There are rules about following the certain laws in character and all that, that you can get in trouble for it. You know, you're supposed to value your life kind of thing. Like, all of that. And that's fine. But with Project Zomboid being an apocalyptic situation, you'd be like, yeah, I don't have to worry about am I in a no parking zone, or did I run a red light? No one cares. So the only thing I'd care about is, you know, making sure my character is acting in a way that they're trying to preserve their well-being. And it could even be that your character justifies it as, like, you know, I want the exclusion zone gone. Maybe my character is motivated that if we get rid of literally all of the zombies, there's no reason to keep the exclusion zone. I was joking with so on Tuesdays I think of the follow worst video game review ever. Welcome to the stream. But I was joking with Moonwitch and Nirida, who are two of the people I play multiplayer with on Tuesdays for Project Zomboid typically. That I was joking about when you're playing multiplayer, it's the only time I actually worry about making sure I'm in the correct lane. Because if you have people in multiplayer going opposite directions, 100% you will just slam into each other if you're not obeying the lane, like staying in your lane. And you can get both people killed that way. I hear another zombie. Let's see. Deonchek says, I could see rules like dead bodies have to be buried to keep the infection at bay or whatever crazy things. I could see that. I could also see, like, not that dead bodies have to be buried, but, like, if you're around dead bodies, like, if you kill some random zombie in a field, it's fine to leave that one. But, like, if you're at the fire department, all dead bodies must be removed from the fire department. Like, your character, in character, has to feel obligated to do that. So the only way you get away with not doing it is if, like, you're forced away from the fire department, something like that, your character's not going to worry about it. But that, if you can reasonably do it before going to sleep, you're expected to. That kind of thing. I wouldn't want to deal with that. Yeah. Yeah. -1, I went through a lamppost. For those who don't RP, RP -1 is when you've done something that, like, breaks characters, whatever. Like, if I was RPing with the Sweet Key, and her character's Callista, and accidentally, in character, I went, that's Sweet Key, I would be, that would be what people would jokingly refer to as a -1. Because, you know, my character doesn't know a person named That Sweet Key, whom I've just referred to as That Sweet Key. It also gets weird because you have to deal with that. Damn, the emote changed? Oh no, I could absolutely see I could absolutely see like RPing in RPing in a Project Zomboid, that if your character had a weak stomach, as it were, so you know they're easy to get nauseous or whatever, that if you just got near dead zombies for more than a couple minutes, your character just like immediately jump up to nauseous. Like maybe it doesn't get past nauseous any faster than anyone else, but getting to nauseous, like if your character's got a weak stomach and they see dead people everywhere, that's just immediately going to do them in. And Indie Stone, if you're listening, don't do it. I mean, I'm actually kind of for it, but also don't do it. Oh yeah, that would be a character you'd only play if you're talking low zombie pops. Like I said, for me, I would want it to be something like if I was to go with that, it wouldn't be that actually gets you closer to actually sick faster, so much as it would just kind of like bypass queasy or whatever, or basically go, you know, the earlier phases of being sick, it would do those prematurely, but then the time it takes you to get from there to sick and all that, because if it just immediately jumped, you'd walk into a pile of corpses and you'd already be sick and have to run away from the pile of corpses immediately, or your character would get feverish and die. It'd have to be one of those things that you're effectively symptomatic from everything before fever faster, but then actually achieving fever would be about the same time. Deancheck said, would love to see a mod for this that would give you RP moodlets that aren't like actually affecting your character. Give me 1 second. So Moriarty has done a posture check. I am slouching. Rep Townie the man says, yeah, but do you think about the difference between playing solo and duo? What is better? What do you think about playing the difference between... Okay, so, and I'm not going to say duo specifically, I'm just going to say multiplayer general. Like small multiplayer. So you're playing with a couple of close buddies. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. They're different. And I would say some of the key difference is when you're playing a multiplayer, for example, you don't need to sleep, which very much changes the dynamic of how you deal with your days and all that. Like, you can play multiplayer where you just don't keep a base at all because you never need to sleep. Like, I genuinely could sit here and just keep my food and weapons on my person and to just poke into a house occasionally to get stuff in multiplayer. Now, in solo, your character has to sleep, and by default, a day is 1 hour long. So you're sleeping like once every like 30 minutes or so. So it's a very different game. You can also fast forward, you can pause, you can do all that kind of stuff in single player, but is that a machete or am I just missing things? That is a machete. So it's very different experiences. I wouldn't say one's better than they are. For streaming, I prefer doing the solo most of the time. I do multiplayer on Tuesdays. I very much enjoy doing the multiplayer, but it is a very different experience. A big part of why I do the multiplayer is kind of twofold. One is I'm playing with people who are still fairly new to the game. Because when you think about it, each week we do this multiplayer, we play for something like 3, maybe 4 hours of multiplayer. Otherwise, I'm doing my solo round. That's just because that's their availability. So as such, even after 6 weeks or so that we've been doing it, they've only played like 20 and 30 hours, somewhere in that area. So they're very, very new players. And I like doing that because they're going to make the same mistakes every new player is going to make. They're going to ask the questions that new players are going to ask that I may not think of because I'm at over 1,200 hours. Now, if I could only play solo or multiplayer, I might go with solo if I had to choose between them. Yep, Moon, what you're actually talking about. You missed here a little bit ago. We had the player behind Callista chatting about GTRP in channel. So we were chit-chatting about some GTRP and all that. But yeah, no, we were talking. There was a question about like, what do I prefer, single player or multiplayer? And I'm like, well, I do both. But yeah, no, I enjoy the multiplayer. Like I said, I do think it's good to have that on the channel because, as I mentioned, even with like playing it 6 different times on stream, you're still only like 20 hours in. The fact that you guys don't awesome all the time, the fact that you're not like dead 90% of the time, is still a testament to like how well you've been doing. Because when I first started this game, I don't want to think about how many hours it took before I wasn't just holding over like a briefcase every single time I got in a fight with a zombie. Because it took me a while to untrain the habits. And unlike a lot of people who have had the advantage of, you know, either joining multiplayer, having friends who know what they're doing, or, you know, tuning into streams or watching YouTube videos or all that, I did none of that. I just hopped in and went, let's do this. Oh, well, I just died to a zombie. Well, let me try it again. Nope. Definitely got bitten another time. Maybe I need to do this differently. Okay, that didn't work. Here, let me just climb through this window. All right, glass. I don't even think I did the tutorial. I don't remember. Maybe I did it before the tutorial was like that. I think maybe when I played it way back then, Baldy was still in the game. Baldy, I don't remember the, There's like way back in the day that there was a, kind of tutorial thing where you played as like, you know, I don't know if they were husband or wife or if it was just dating or like whatever. But, you know, dude and significant other or lady and significant other. And it was a tutorial you'd start as. And so you'd, you know, it'd teach you some of the mechanics of the game. And the really grim way is the way you could pass this tutorial, because your significant other had been bitten or whatever. They were infected. And if you wanted to skip the tutorial, you could just smother them and just skip the entire tutorial. It was dark. At least I believe that's how it worked. I'm going by memory, that could be wrong. Are you looking actually for a katana? I mean, I'm not looking for a katana at the moment. I'm just killing zombies because they're trying to clear. No, I mean, so there was the tutorial way before, and just, I did it so long ago that's like, I don't remember if there was a tutorial, like, I don't remember, because I played maybe 100 hours, like, way back. And then, like, I came back to playing the game in, like, what was it, July? No, I think maybe it was, I had started streaming is when I came back to the game. Like, I think I was playing Project Zomboid a little bit off stream. But, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Unfortunately, if the game was like every time you started you had to do the tutorial, which I don't think you did, it's like after the first time it's like, hey, look, I don't want to do this, but no, seriously. I mean, at least in the game, they presented the smothering thing as like a mercy kill, because, you know, she had been bitten, you knew she was going to turn, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you know, let's not make her suffer. Like, they staged it as that. I don't remember. Like, it didn't get, like, super over the dark. How do you get that color on? Oh, here. Alright, so let me catch up with chat real fast, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill in that question. So Deancheck's saying, the cure for pushing Q, we were told. It would help us, we were told. Trust the red panda, we were told. Excellent. Thank you for the follow. Chat is toxic. Welcome to the stream. Some of these names are amazing, by the way. Let's see. And people wonder why we burn down Spiffo, says Deancheck. Yep. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, because Herma has asked, I'm going to go and take the 2-second, like I do a little spiel for when you have new players to kind of go through them. That includes the answer to that question, which is why I'm doing it this way. So before you get too far into Project Zomboid, you just boot up. The first thing I recommend doing is hitting escape, going to options, and going to display. Now, a lot of these settings are going to be here, so I'm just going to recommend them to just because I'm off habit. But you have like the ISO cursor visibility, have that at 50 or 75%. I believe it's already defaulted there. They show the mouse cursor while aiming. I recommend turning that on. If you decide you don't like it, turn it off. It's fine. It's a preference. And that's when you're holding right mouse button so that you keep your mouse cursor on the screen. If you lose track of your mouse while you're fighting, you are probably going to die. But the big one here, and the reason I'm going out of my way to do this, is this aim outline, which is coming to your question. It starts on ranged weapon. Change that to any weapon. And what that does is when a zombie gets in range, it will show you which zombie you're going to hit, and that is range with the weapon you currently have. So that can be extremely helpful. And then the one last setting I'd recommend is if you start getting into long playthroughs or playthroughs where you do lots of zombie kills, this blood decals, consider turning that to none. What this is every time you kill a zombie, it falls over, a little splat of blood appears, it's cool, it adds atmosphere, so you can go back to that place, you had that war with the zombies, and you see all the blood splatter everywhere, you're like, oh yeah, there was a fight here, I remember that. Unfortunately, they never go away, so every time you kill a zombie, you're adding that many more textures into your world. Eventually it does get to be a performance, and I actually did that earlier. I went to a parking lot we had fought a lot in, turned it on, and my frame rate went from like smooth buttery over 60 to like 14. And I am on a very high-end computer, so for my computer to like drag down like that is just how bad it is. So now, if you look, I have this little circle with the line on it. That's the ISO cursor I mentioned. And you also notice it's the same height as the zombie. That's because that's where I'm aiming, not my mouse. So if I turn like this, you can see I'm looking past the mouse at that line. Now, you don't need to aim at the zombie, you can aim past it, but you'll notice once it gets in range, it'll turn green. And that's what that any weapon aim outline is. That's the answer to that question. I know I had a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to quickly deal with this, because I wanted to do this like little talk through, but these zombies are being too plentiful for it. So you'll see a bunch of things I am doing to keep myself safe, is I'm constantly backing up while fighting the zombies. I do not try and stay. Like, you don't want to stand still while attacking, if you can help it. It's okay if you miss from time to time. You're probably going to notice that I'm getting away with a lot of stuff you may be not able to. I'm going to push this zombie. Lady fall down. Lady fall down. You're ruining my bit. Oh, fine. I want to get just one zombie here so I can demo stuff. Okay, so what I wanted to demo is, if you notice, I pushed over this zombie. We're hungry. Just gonna have ourselves a little snack here. Don't worry, she's fine. She's just chilling down there. It's okay. Make ourselves a little bit of a salad here. No big deal. Fish in there. You know, I feel like the salad could use some radish. I know, lady, radish. I'm sorry. I realize you're not into it, but this is my salad, not yours. I'm just gonna put some cabbage in there, a little carrot, maybe a tomato. So as you get the idea, if you're standing on a zombie or another zombie standing on a zombie, it's taken out of action. You don't have to worry about it. The one caveat being, do not stand on crawling zombies. They will bite your ankles and you'll have a bad time. But this is one of the reasons you'll notice most of the time, I try and as much as possible get the zombies to line up, like they're doing right now. Think of it as the zombies want an autograph, and you want to make sure they queue properly. None of this side-by-side garbage. And the reason for that is, if they're side-by-side, when it... Hold, please. If they're side-by-side, like I hit this one on the right, she keeps coming. So you can imagine, if you got them, like, 3 brawn, and they're moving, like, because I have a lot of nimble, I can get away with stuff right now. But if you don't have a lot of nimble, I hit that first one, and the second one just strolls right on by and takes a nice big bite out of my face. Don't like my face getting bitten, so not a big fan. But, so there's that. And so yeah, you don't want zombies perpendicular to the way you're facing. If you see that, you turn and walk away. Now, the one thing I always do is if I were to give a player just one piece of advice as a new player, it's to slow down. You'll notice I very, very, very rarely run. Running uses a lot of stamina. The stamina you need to fight zombies. So you see a lot of new players where they'll loot this house, they'll run out this door, they'll jump over the fence, running across the fence, they'll jump over it, run into that door, and then you'll go 2-3 houses in, and then suddenly they go, I'm like, well, why my character won't run? Why can't I hurt the zombies? They don't seem to be doing anything. And it's because you get exerted. So this game is very much about taking your time. There's very, very rarely that you need to run. To give you an example, I've aggroed this zombie. I don't need to run at all. That zombie is just handily losing speed, and there isn't a skill that makes you walk faster. Like, you have a set walk speed. There are penalties that'll make you walk slower, but there isn't a skill that makes you walk faster, so you do not need to run to get away from zombies. I can run to get a few steps away from a zombie if I need to do that to be safe. Like if I'm being intercepted. But I don't need to just flat out run. Which suddenly reminds me, like right there. Is there faster zombies? By default in the game, there's Shambler and Fast Shambler. So you're just faster. So one thing you can learn is if I run at a zombie, I'll just handily elbow them out of the way. So you can shove your way through a zombie if you need to. Don't do it if there's more than one. After the first zombie is bumped, your character goes slightly off balance. When you bump into the second zombie, you will trip and fall. Well, potentially second or third zombie, you'll trip and fall. And if you trip and fall, for one, you usually get scratched by the ground, which isn't zombie infection concern, but it means your character might limp or whatever. So, yeah. Oh yeah, I do not have sprinters turned on, Tenzil. I actually find the sprinter play in Project Zomboid not fun. They're not on by default. For me, sprinters is 100% methodically pulling only 1 or 2 zombies at a time, never more. And then if you do pull more, doing what we call window and fence tech, which is you climb through the window, the zombies all bottleneck trying to climb through the window, you kill them all as they come through the window. If they come too fast, you run to the next window, repeat the process. To me, that's not fun gameplay. That's using the limitations of mobilities, as almost like exploiting the AI. I've done sprinters on stream a couple of times. It's not my cup of tea. If it is yours, cool. Have a nice time. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of sprinters. And like I said, there isn't any of the difficulties that it's on by default. Sprinters are something you have to go out of your way, say, I would like zombies that run. But yeah, so you can shove zombies out of the way. So that's a reason to run. So you'll notice when I walk out of a place, I see that the door is clear, but I'm not sure about around the door. I will run the 2 or 3 steps through the door. Just that way, if there is a zombie sitting right next to the door and it tries to grab me, I just push me by. Yep, we are at the Rosewood Fire Department. This is one of the most popular places in the entire game to build a base. Because it has this fence that surrounds 3 whole sides of it. It's got weapons inside, it's got firemen's outfits, it's got a pretty decent sized base. It doesn't really have a good water supply, or it's not particularly close to gas, but as far as fortifiable positions, it is one of the best in the game. There are a few other strong contesters, but it's there. It also has a huge backyard for a fortified position, and I don't believe there's an area you can fortify as easily with as big a backyard. So it is definitely a place to consider. Yeah, so where that one's crawling right now, do not stand on that zombie. Another advantage with lining them up like this, if I were to hit one of these zombies that's lined up right now, and it were to fall over, all the other zombies would walk over top of that zombie. That zombie cannot get up and return to the fight until there's a big enough gap. Crawlers are super jank, so be very careful with them. The only injury this character's taken this entire time with 63,000 zombies killed was from a crawler that I was just having problems actually landing the hit on. And it was incredibly frustrating. But we are starting to head back towards home. This moodle up here, drowsy, means we are done for the day. You can use stuff to stave off drowsiness and all that. But the thing that you want to deal with is those moodles, you want to take them seriously. You might look at it and go, ah, it's just we're a little bit drowsy. But you'll notice I went from going 2 hits to kill a zombie to 4 hits to kill a zombie. And every single time I'm poking stuff, we're getting a little more tired and a little more exhausted. You get the idea. I have doubled the amount of effort it takes me to kill per zombie, and I'm accelerating the rate I will hit having to put even more effort into killing a zombie. So the moment you start getting too exerted, you get tired, you get dehydrated, you get too hungry, like any of those things, it's time to back off and fix your problem if you can. If you can't fix it, I get it, sometimes you have to fight in areas where you're not, you know, you're like off balance or whatever. But the point is, you gotta be careful. Thank you for the follow. Kings8, welcome to the stream. So yeah, you do have to watch out for that. Exertion and tiredness will get you killed. Is the knife the best weapon? I personally do not believe there's a best weapon in this game. I do believe they do a good job of balancing out where certain weapons have certain situations they do better. But if you were to go, well, what would, if you had to choose one thing to be the meta, what would it be? If it was that, I would say spears. But even then, I wouldn't say it's like a hard meta or anything. And thank you for the follow. Zindel2020, welcome to the stream. And the reason for that, like, spears have some of the highest damage output range and just absolutely, like, slap. But their durability on their weapons is horrendously bad. So yes, you absolutely just delete zombies, and then your weapon breaks in all of, like, no time at all. Now, you can eventually work your way up to that not being a problem, but that takes a decent amount of effort. That said, like knives, where I lean on the knife so much, where my hunting knife is my go-to weapon. Like you saw, I ran through that door. That's just because I couldn't know that there's not a zombie there. So, I ran through just that way. If there's a zombie chilling at my door, it wouldn't be a problem. But where knives are magic is knives take almost no stamina to swing. So where if I use a spear or an axe or a crowbar or anything like that, my character is going to get more and more exhausted because they're swinging this big heavy weapon around. The knife you can keep fighting for almost ever, as far as like your exhaustion goes. Eventually you will get tired, and as you get more and more tired, your stamina recovers slower, so no matter what, eventually it'll catch up. But that's kind of the draw of the knives. But there are other good weapons like the short blunt weapons.